not sure, we can only charge what it costs the city to implement. Now, after that, we've been asked to come back with manufacturing and lab testing. Those are two other legal uses according to the state. We don't think those will be quite as difficult as cultivation, because cultivation takes up so much physical space, that it's a big land use. Right now, we're expecting to only recommend the same kinds of conditions on it that you would have with any kind of manufacturing business. So it shouldn't be terribly difficult. You'd be able to locate in the same land uses that any manufacturing business would be in. And lab testing, that one's even easier because it's smaller. But again, we'll have to have plans in place for how cash is handled, for how the product is handled, and things that are just particular to cannabis. Lastly, we've been asked to come back. Well, we haven't been asked yet, but we know it's coming. So the thing after that we'll be working on is distribution and transportation. Especially with Prop 64 passing, we know a lot of folks are going to be looking to do adult use, and it's going to have to go through that system. And as you probably know, you need to, in order to operate legally in the state, you have to have a local license in order to get a state license. So you're going to need both. So the city's a little bit ahead of the state, but we're working very closely with them and trying to keep the regulations in check with them. For example, with cultivation, 22,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. But we're going to do kind of, our licenses will be kind of the same way and go hand in hand with that. Seeing if I missed anything. I don't think so. So that's kind of where we are now. At this point, we'd be happy to answer any questions. We have representatives from all the city departments that are involved, and Tessa will bring you a mic. We're asking you to speak into the mic so that this can be recorded. It'll be a YouTube video. We'll send it back to you, and it'll also go on our website eventually. Thank
you. For the manufacturing, so if it's just regular manufacturing restrictions on it, is that going to be in the same zoning areas as cultivation?
A good question. Actually, the council has directed us to only permit, for the time being, non-volatile. I know that's an issue for a lot of the industry. Some folks have shown us and that there is volatile extraction that still works. If you have language you want to share with us, if you have ordinances from other cities, please go ahead and email them to Renell or to me. We'd like to see them because we're open to it. But right now the direction is non-volatile, and it would be allowed in the same areas that manufacturing is currently allowed. Do you want to give the Joy is our zoning administrator. She's going to tell you which zones they'll be in, or we're recommending.
So we're recommending C4 heavy commercial, light industrial, heavy industrial, so M1, M2, manufacturing, research and development zone, and MRD, and pretty much no ag. C2 to a maximum of 6,400 square feet, like all other manufacturing.
Thanks. And we realize that some manufacturing is actually just water extraction for baking goods. We're going to have to figure that one out because it's not the same process. So that may go through, depending upon whether it's wholesale or retail, we'll have to figure out where that fits. So that's something we'll work through as we go through it. We're trying to get cultivation completely done and the pieces around that and delivery done while we start manufacturing. So
my question is for the ZA. The language to the specifications for every zone will be laid out, or will there be comment period is that language already out? Like
the cultivation ordinance has been certified. The only thing that may change is we did get direction from the council after they adopted the ordinance that's online, was to come back with sensitive use language for parks.
Got it.
So I know that makes it a little like, well, is this place okay? Is that place okay?
Is the pocket park a park? Is the railroad
right?
park?
We're
Is
going to
the
try
trail a
really
park?
hard to use logic,
Right.
which is sometimes new and different for us in government, but logic would be really good. We don't want to pick things where there's no conflict. So there's always some ability for the zoning administrator to determine something And we'll try, what the council's interested in is protecting those under 21, families gathering, that kind of thing. We'll keep it really tight. Maybe it has to have a playground, or it has to be an active park as opposed to a pocket park. And a lot of the parks are in residential where you wouldn't be going anyway. So we're hoping to make it make sense, and they haven't adopted it yet. We have to bring it back to them.
And just to follow up to that very same question, and so the soonest you anticipate accepting a CUP application with regard to a property owner?
I would say the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second, we'll be ready.
Very well, thank you.
Sure.
Kind of along the same field is businesses. I run quite a few of the WIC businesses as a facility manager. What rights do we have to keep that? Is that going to be part of that sensitivity buffer? Are you guys keeping that thing in mind as well?
When you say WIC, you mean women and children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what? That's the first time that has come up. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis, depending upon where your business is located and whether or not it would be a compatible use. There's no call-out specifically for WIC, but I could certainly see where that should be taken into account.
Well, I'm for everyone's freedom to do what they need to, and I voted in favor, as a matter of fact. But I also know that we have a high school near one of our sites, and the windows are tinted so they can't see in, and they think that's the perfect cubbyhole. And I want to know what my rights are to make sure that they're not able to sit in front of that door.
Makes sense.
In front of those kids.
Well, the state law, and we of course have to follow state law, is 600 feet from schools minimum. So that is immediately not going to be the right place for that kind of business. Also, any cultivation business has to be fully enclosed. They have to have an odor control program, and they're allowed to have one sign that's less than 6 feet. So if all goes well, those students would never know what's happening inside that building. That's just a business like any other business, and there should be no conflict with that. But again, if there's a proposal and your business is within a certain distance of the proposal, you'll get a notification. You'll be able to come to the hearing and say whether or not this is something that works for you. Sure. Oh, yes, and we're capturing all of the questions. If there's something we don't know the answer to, we will get back to you, and we will find out. So everything is posted, yeah. And we send it out to the stakeholders. Renell's awesome about that.
Yeah, there. So we do a CO2 with ethanol co-solvent injection, which is pretty safe. I mean, once you put anything in CO2, it becomes non-volatile, right? Because CO2 is what's used in a fire.
I'm not a
extinguisher.
chemist. I don't know.
So who would be, because that's vital in our production to be able to use that co-solvent. So who would be the one? The building code?
Yeah,
or
our
the
fire department is
Fire
predominantly looking into
Okay.
that right now.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
and if it's a CO2 system, it will have to be a completely closed system. So, I learned that in Denver.
Just to follow up, will the manufacturing zoning have that 600-foot?
Yes,
Every business
every cannabis-related business has that same requirement, and that was in state law. I don't know. No, I don't. A lot, but they still keep getting them. Still working for them. We can't, because the cost of living doesn't necessarily match. It's not a matter of being competitive. There's enough people who want to do business anyway. What ours will be composed of is how much it's going to cost us to review and process it, how much it's going to cost to enforce the regulations around it, do inspections, do what we need to do to make sure you're operating in a safe manner, and to go after, frankly, the folks who are operating outside the law. And that's kind of the balance that the city council is looking for, and that's what we're looking for. It would be an annual permit. The CUP process, the conditional use permit, goes with the land. The operations permit goes with the business. And the CUP is a one-time thing. The operating permit will be ongoing. Annual. Sure.
Is mixed light going to be allowed outdoor greenhouses? Is that considered a fully enclosed building or not?
It's not. I believe we're allowed to. I'm sorry. With just the top, you mean? Where the top is
Like a full dome, greenhouse.
right, but the sides are opaque.
It would be closed. Everything would be.
Everything would be closed. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
So that will be allowed.
Yes, that will be allowed. And we encourage you, if you're considering cultivation business, think about your power usage. So that's a wonderful, kind of environmentally sensitive way to go. If it's possible on your facility, absolutely a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. We're going to be looking for efficiency plans for all kinds of things, for your energy use, for your water use. We want the water caught and reused and environmentally friendly. Yes, sir.
Good evening. This question is regarding the manufacturing ordinance. Is that also going to come online at the end of the first quarter, possibly beginning of the second quarter, or are we looking at a little bit more protraction on the timeline?
Well, I think, and we're meeting actually on the timeline because there's so many moving parts, and some things have to go to the Planning Commission and to the Law and Legislation Committee before they come to council, and they have to be what we call PFP'd, passed for publication. So we're actually working on the logistics of that, but we believe we will at least start the process at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second, looking to probably start accepting applications at the beginning of the third. So we're looking at kind of as the pieces go through, and then starting to look at transportation and distribution.
So manufacturing, the earliest that you would accept any application would be the beginning of the third quarter.
We hope to beat that, but I think that would be a safe bet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone? Really?
So is there going to be, are cultivators going to be able to be processors as well? Probably already went over this, but.
Well, according to the state, you can have 2 licenses. So if it's a compatible use and it works with the law, sure. We have some cultivators who want to have delivery-only dispensaries attached to their cultivation site. If it's a sensible plan that works the land use and is within the law, then it's probably doable.
Y'all could have sat a little closer.
Yeah.
Really making me work.
Feel kind of silly. It's like
Jason, Fatties, hello again.
Hello again. Thanks for coming back.
Did a little more research and then came back so I could bug you some more. And
Bring
so
it.
You said you guys were going to mirror the state licenses, but on the topic of micro business license, where it has every license under one roof.
The vertical integration.
Yeah, how are you guys going to implement vertical integration?
We haven't looked at that yet. Now that you've brought it up, we're going to look at it because it was brought up this afternoon.
So 2 times and it's really in there. Okay.
Well,
Awesome.
yeah, it's in there. We're not in the business. We're public administrators, so there's things we don't know. So if there's something you do want us to know about your extraction process,
A lot
about
of people by default might be going for that one.
it's possible, but there's probably,
'Cause it's a
depending
1
upon
acre.
what we figure out. I know there's somewhat of an aversion to vertical integration based on the medical. It's different in Prop 64 for adult use. So we're still waiting to see what the state does in some ways, but we're going to look into the micro business license.
And potentially last question.
Sure.
Do you have any ballpark figure on like what it would take for the license application fee to be kind of known now, like 25 grand?
I would say more.
More than 20, even for a delivery?
It depends on the type of business.
So for a delivery service, they would have to pay 25 grand just to
I
even
was talking
apply?
about cultivation. I thought you were asking
Okay.
about those are big spaces.
Right.
Delivery, we did not frankly envision doing delivery only licenses, so we're just starting. We got to see what it takes. It would probably be more similar to a dispensary.
But
One.
my original question in the morning was, if we structure our delivery based on the brick and mortar, it takes like, in the time I execute one delivery, a brick and mortar's already had 20 patients in and out the door. So I think it's a little, I don't want to use the word unfair, I just think we should be honest about.
You don't have to pay. Yeah,
It's going to be the cost of us providing the service and the enforcement.
So,
That's what it's going to be.
All right.
yeah. You'll have to see if the business model works for you. Yeah. It's hard to work for the government. Okay. let me get you the microphone so we can capture the questions. That's okay.
I was thinking, you have the Compassionate Use Act too, so there may be some ways to reduce application fees if it's
Strictly medical.
clearly like, yes, a private, well, clearly private nonprofit with a medical or use. I know that there's language in the law, the state law, that talks about reductions for Medi-Cal and et cetera.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something that either, if it hasn't been written in.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard one for us to tell. It might be something that falls in the micro business. We did talk to a number of folks who do medical strains that are not as commercially viable because they have very little THC, a lot of CBD. They're really, meant for kids with epilepsy, whatever the health issue is. And we're going to see if there's some way to do a smaller permit for folks so they can keep doing that. But we don't know yet. And if we learned anything as we traveled and met with our peers in other cities that are ahead of us, it's that we'll be back at this body every 3 months at a minimum to update it because it is a brand new, for regulation, a brand new industry. So we're going to have to keep changing, but that's something that's in everybody's mind. That gentleman hasn't asked yet. Can we grab him and then?
Well, he asked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is the permit being modeled after a liquor license? Would that be the nearest closest thing?
No, that's the state's stuff. This is more of a business license for the municipal purpose. So land use and municipal operations. So I'm sorry. Now back.
Just real quick, you probably went over this already, but as far as like the testing, manufacturing, and cultivation, how many of those businesses can like live in the same building if it's zoned properly?
Actually, that would, if it's done properly and within the law, it's really going to be, if you have a 50,000 square foot warehouse and you want to have 7 different cultivators, that's something, that shouldn't be, that's not up to us. If it makes sense and it meets the land use requirements, that's fine. Where it might get dicey is if there's 2 different kinds of permits, but again, if it fits the land use, it's probably going to be okay. But we're hoping, philosophically, the city council would like to be able to see small businesses, people who are disadvantaged by the old laws, be able to get in and stay in the business so it doesn't just become a very corporate situation where people are priced out of it. So that may be an answer for a lot of folks. So if anything, we try to facilitate that.
Cool, thank you.
So just to piggyback off that last comment, potentially if you have 7 registrants that occupy the same APN, or if you have multiple APNs that sit right next to each other, none of that is going to be an issue. There's no setbacks, or or is it by?
Yeah, originally staff had recommended 1,000 feet between cannabis businesses. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, I need new boots. That was really unpleasant. Sorry, my shoe broke as I was speaking. If it's planned correctly, that shouldn't be a problem. And both the Planning Commission, the Law and Legislation Committee, and the Council agreed that concentration can be dealt with through the conditional use process. We already know, the biggest concern is over-concentration. And so we tried to the best of our ability to go ahead and reduce the number of barriers. So it should be okay if it's an appropriate use. The land is zoned properly. I can't see why not. And frankly, supporting a bunch of small businesses is not a bad thing.
No doubt. What kind of background check is going to be necessary, and is the landlord going to be background checked along with the registrants, or the workers going to be background checked?
Everybody involved in the cannabis business will be background checked, but the landlord not necessarily. What you will need is permission from your landlord to operate your business, and if you're still going to need a conditional use permit on that property. So either the landlord has to do that, or you have to do that in concert with the landlord to make sure that you can get the permission for the land use.
Okay. One last question.
Sure.
In regards to any easements, surface water, anything like that, will there be any setback requirements to those, or is it?
Joy? She's thinking.
Tell me the question again.
Land use easements for like waterways and stuff, will that affect it in any way?
Is there? Yeah, I'm sorry. So, like, for instance, State Water Resource Control Board has a $100 setback. A 100-foot setback off of any surface water. Is there going to be anything analogous to that regarding easements that might cross the property? Utility easements, are those going to affect where you can cultivate? Has there been any thought given to that? I don't know.
I'm going to let the zoning.
No thought.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be when an application comes in, and it's routed to various agencies, and so comments come back, and if there were issues regarding easements, and where you're going to place buildings, then
It's
those comments
a lot
will
of
come
these
back.
Industrial zoned properties have high power wires running across them, so on and so forth, and there's easements created by
Yeah, so it's just like any other application. It's going to
Okay.
be on a case-by-case basis.
Sure. I'll stop.
It's okay. And by the way, we are working with SMUD. We really would love to see the businesses think about their energy efficiency. Our utilities department, we're going to be looking for your water efficiency. And again, it won't exclude you if you don't have those plans, but it'll certainly behoove you to have them. So please think environmentally as you plan your business.
So speaking of plans, will a business permit have to operate according to the plans that are submitted?
Absolutely.
Okay, and they will be checked annually? Or?
Yes. And throughout the year. And we have a team that does spot inspections.
So it'll be similar to the rental housing?
Very similar, actually.
Okay.
And that will be included in the fee structure, which is why it'd be higher than on some other industries where they're not all cash or they're not dealing in cannabis or something that's not.
But I thought in your ordinance it says that you can't look at records and things like that when a building inspector is on site. Will they be able to look at records on site?
I wrote I don't recall anything to that effect.
Okay. And I can't.
Yeah, we can't look at medical records in dispensaries of qualified patients because of HIPAA. But
Right.
yeah, but it's nothing to do with the actual physical structure or the business being conducted.
Okay, and I came in a little bit late.
That's
Are
okay.
you going to have copies of this portion of the ordinance available at some point in time?
Absolutely. The ordinance that passed on the 22nd is already codified and available on the city's website. The pieces that we got direction to come back with, they will be available. They'll be available online at a minimum of a week before the item comes to the city council, and we'll continue to have stakeholder meetings. And if you left your email with on the sign-in sheet, we will keep you abreast of these. We plan on keeping this going. As we get closer to manufacturing, we'll know a lot more than we do. We don't know yet. We just got all of this, and we're meeting tomorrow, frankly, to try to lay it out. We are going to be aggressive but not crazy because they need to be well thought out. And it was not a unanimous vote, so we have to make sure that the council feels as comfortable as possible with the direction we're moving in.
So would the background check just be a live scan service?
Yes.
Live scan?
Yes.
With the Department of Justice or California Justice Board?
DOJ, yep.
DOJ. Okay, and then I heard something about Council Member Warren wanting to limit licenses.
He had requested a cap of 200 cultivation sites. That was not passed in the ordinance. I think realistically, staff, because we have no more staff than we did a year ago when we started this project, and now we're realizing how much interest there is. So we're starting to try to build up to be able to administer everything. I think we may come to a point where we have so many applications that to accept any more would be irresponsible. And we would come to the council and say, we got to stop, process what we've got, see what we have in the city, and reevaluate. But right now, there's no caps proposed. For the delivery-only dispensaries, staff will recommend a cap. We don't know what the council will adopt.
Is there somebody specific at the fire department we could speak to and give some of our recommendations regarding? what
You
we
can
feel
email
might
it
be-
to Renell, and the whole team will get it, and
Okay.
we'll review it. We meet weekly for way too long, and try to go over everything we receive. We also get presentations from different businesses so that they can
course.
share their information with us. So
Okay.
please send it.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of you sell boots? Sorry. Sorry. Right? Oh my God. Anybody else? Yes.
In
Hi.
regards to SMUD,
Yes.
do you know if they're gonna like change the rate in the rate in which we pay per kilowatt based on these new permits, or do we have to
Well,
go get an electric car to get a discount?
Well, we've met with SMUD. We've asked them to get up to speed on what it takes to do a baseline of what the average cultivation site requires. We have toyed with the idea of requesting that everybody buy into the renewable system, like the Golden One Center did, but we realize not everybody has Golden One Center money. So we are going to ask each site, and this would be more for cultivation than your delivery site,
I cultivate too, so it's kind
La, 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 la. You would want to go to SMUD, sit down with them, and come up with the best and most efficient plan possible. If you can use LEDs, we've seen very efficient operations, and we've seen really scary GHG belching operations. We will be looking at your energy efficiency plan, and we hope you will be doing the responsible thing. But I don't think they're going to do you any favors if you're looking for a discount. Okay. Okay. Is that it? Have at it. That's why we're here.
Thanks. Sorry, I was a bit late too, so I don't think I need a mic. Okay, I have a number of clients in different counties, and we've seen this process go through, So, and I kind of have a general idea of what we all want is safe, holistic type of things, right? Is Sacramento going to take the position of prior people that have been working in the industry prior to that as a step up, or what's the decision on that?
We touched on this afternoon
Sorry.
about some sort of merit-based application process.